Welcome to Milk Market Tidbit for the May Dairy Products Report that the USDA released on Thursday afternoon after the market closed. This is Dr. Lawrence Jones, and I'm recording this on Sunday morning, July the 6th. All right, the Dairy Products Report kind of finishes everything up for a month, so now we have all the data we need for May so we can kind of put things in a little bit of perspective here. So what we're looking for is the cheese production and the butter production out of these two reports. Now, this is a table of everything that we know for May as well as April and a year ago. So let's start with the revisions first. So they revised up the cheese production in April and they revised down the butter production. So cheese production was at 40,395,000. That was a little bit lower than what we thought it would be given the typical historical numbers and a little bit higher than what StoneX had it at. And butter was 6,837,000, and that was a little bit lower than both the typical and StoneX. So we'll kind of look at the graphs here. Before we get started on that, I wanted to spend a little bit of time on exports. Now, in my Sunday podcast, I'm going to dig pretty deeply into exports. But anyway, we exported 113 million pounds of cheese, which was a little over 9% of the production from April, which was 8.86. Now, Mexico actually took a little bit smaller percentage, only 31%, where last month they had 35. And we exported just a tad bit less cheddar, specifically because cheddar is about 28% of the production. We were at 6.2, where last month we were 6.7. Now for butter, butter was up just a little bit, about 5.5% versus 5 last month. And Mexico did take a fair amount less. They're only at 3.3 versus 4.6. Cheese production is off of the all-time high that we had last month, but again, we've been on this tremendous upward trend, and basically we're paralleling that at this point. But if we look at how this compares to history, this is what I'd call the second highest, with last month being the highest. And so again, we've got just a tremendous amount of cheese being made. So what I like to do is look at the overall rolling disappearance versus production. The black line is production, so you can see for quite a while here, almost a year, we have been producing less than has been disappearing. And then the blue line, of course, is the disappearance. Now these have kind of converged here just recently, and if we just look at May in particular, we produced 40,395,000 pounds a day, and the rolling disappearance for the last 12 months is 39,294. So it would suggest we're now beginning to produce a little bit more cheese than is disappearing. And the question really is, what drove this disappearance? Is that all due to expanded exports? I'm not sure that's entirely true. But again, if you kind of stand back and look at this picture, we flatlined 2019 to 2021. Then we kind of came up and then we flatlined again. And the question is, can we take these cheese demand up one more level? So here's the American type cheeses. It actually came up this month, but it was a little bit lower than the historical suggest. And again, we've been on this tremendous upward trend. It would be inappropriate to compare this back to a year ago because that was a bit of an outlier. What we're most interested in is cheddar cheese because that's what drives the overall price. Again, we've been in this tremendous upward trend, and it would be inappropriate to compare it back to a year ago as an outlier. But what concerns me is this tremendous uptick of cheddar production, and we're pretty close to an all-time high in daily cheddar production. At the same time, Italian type cheeses came down, and it was actually lower than what we would have expected on the historical number. Again, we're pretty well paralleling that the long-term trend that we'd been on at this point. Daily whey production came in stronger than what we had predicted. It was way down here just a couple months ago, and I'm not quite sure what drove that. But it's been on a definite downward trend here. And we're way off of the long-term trend. That would suggest that we should be clear up here somewhere. Butter production is very, very seasonal. I mean, it's amazing as to how seasonal this is. We've been on, kind of a gradual upward trend, and we really took off in 2023, and we're the highest May production of butter that we've ever had at this point. Total ice cream has been declining, and it came in pretty close to where we had expected it to, but just maybe a tad low. Again, very, very seasonal, and we're pretty much right on that long-term trend. The difference between those two trends is insignificant. Yogurt production, it's been coming up recently, but it came off of the historical number that we would have expected here. And the one that I'm trying to promote myself is cottage cheese, because I have it every morning at this point. But it came off of the historical number, but it's still on a short-term upward trend for these last 3 years. And again, TikTok is what intervened right here and changed that trajectory. So this last week, we had the global dairy trade that was down 4%. You've already got a milk market tidbit for the class of components. This puts together the dairy products and exports. Next week, we're going into what I call the dark zone. We're going to have very little information. And so we're going to expect the emotion to kind of take over the sense of the trade. And the next milk market tidbit will be for the statistical uniform prices coming out in the middle of the month.